Everyone there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, people who were there yesterday who attended the class, they would remember that in section 1, the topics that we have covered so far, in the beginning, it was business activity. Then there were the sectors of production, primary, secondary, tertiary. Then there was adding value, changing the perception of the customers, followed by factors of production, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. And yesterday we had a detailed discussion on ethics, CSR, and triple bottom line. This is what we've done so far: ethical issues, corporate social responsibility, and triple bottom line. This was the last topic that we went through in our class yesterday. Today it's going to be size and growth of businesses. That's a fresh topic, new topic for today. Section 1, size and growth of business. Just size and growth of businesses. Size and growth of businesses. This comes right after ethics, CSR, and triple bottom line, the one that we covered yesterday. Size and growth of businesses. Size and growth. Right after triple bottom line, corporate social responsibility, and ethics. So in this new topic, size and growth of businesses, first of all, just to start off with, we should know what the indicators are, the indicators of the size of a business. You know that how would we know whether it's a large business or a small business? What are the indicators of the size of a business? What are the indicators of the growth of a business? The size of a business. Uske determinants kya hai? Pata kis tarah chalta hai कि whether this is a large business or a small business. So there are numerous indicators that reflect the size of a business. There are numerous indicators that tell us about the size and growth of a business. Okay, let's prepare a list of those indicators. Okay. Firstly, size of the workforce. That is one indicator, size of the workforce. Then we have capital employed, size of the workforce. Then there's capital employed, machinery, etc. Then there's market share, assets. Okay, ये हम क्या कर रहे हैं? We are preparing a list of the indicators of the size of a business. Okay, what are the factors that guide us regarding the size of a business? ये हमारा fresh topic है for those who have just joined after ethics, CSR, triple bottom line. This is a fresh topic, size and growth of businesses, and we are just preparing a list of the indicators of size, the size of a business. Okay, so the indicators include size of the workforce, capital employed, assets, market share, profit. Okay, there could be others also. All these are the indicators of the size of a business. Okay, by looking at these factors, by assessing these factors, we will have an idea whether it's a large business or a small one. ठीक है ना, पहली बात तो ये है. There could be other indicators also. Sales भी हो सकता है. But there's something that I want you to remember, because this is a very commonly asked question. Let's suppose they want you to give two indicators only. क्योंकि कई दफा past papers में question आया है. Two indicators of the size of a business. You give just two factors that tell us about the size of a business, whether it's a large firm or a small firm. So अगर कोई ऐसा question आ जाए जिसमें they categorically want you to pinpoint two indicators only, then always keep in mind that size of the workforce and capital employed. Size of the workforce and capital employed are the two most important indicators. Size of the workforce and capital employed are the two most important indicators of the size and growth of businesses. ठीक है, अगर वो categorically पूछें, give two factors only, so those two factors have to be size of the workforce and capital employed. देखो, business में there's something that we need to remember. You know, they want us to come up with good answers. ठीक है, they want us to come up with correct answers, but they also want us to come up with superior answers. मैंने कहा ना, कई indicators हो सकते हैं growth के. Size of the workforce है, capital employed है, market share है, ठीक है, profit है, assets हैं. But in terms of quality, if they want us to give two, and you want to score full marks, so always remember that size of the workforce and capital employed are the two most important indicators of the size of a business. ठीक है, कि if a business organization has a large workforce, that is an evidence that it's a large business. या if they've got, you know, good machinery, या उनके पास equipment ज़्यादा है, capital employed, that's also, you know, that is an important indicator that tells us about the size of the business. ठीक है, पहली बात तो ये. Then, if you go through the past papers, usually there's another question. इसी का एक, you know, in continuation of this, there's another part, ठीक है, in which they say, why is it sometimes difficult to compare the size of different businesses? पहले वो कहेंगे, give the indicators of growth. What are the factors that tell us about the size of a business? And in the second part, they would often ask you know, the second, or usually 3 marks, the second part, they would often inquire, why is it sometimes difficult to compare the size of businesses? So in response to this question, you have to keep in mind some industries, some businesses are labor intensive, and some businesses are capital intensive. ठीक है, याद रखना. There are many of us who already have an idea. Many businesses are labor intensive, and there are many businesses that are capital intensive. मतलब, there are many businesses in which the workers are more important than the machinery. You rely more on workers, usko labor intensive कहते हैं. And then there are many businesses in which you rely more on machinery than workers. Those are called capital intensive businesses. ठीक है, जिस तरह बड़ी common example है, a football manufacturing plant is labor intensive because football is a product that is handmade. वो labor intensive. But a car manufacturing plant is capital intensive because with robots and machinery that is more actively involved. ठीक है, labor and capital intensive. So, you know, if it's a labor intensive business, then size of the workforce is a better indicator. And if it's a capital intensive business, then capital employed is a better indicator. ठीक है ना, कि अगर आपने, you're judging the size of a football manufacturer, then number of workers is more important. भाई जाहिर है, 2 football manufacturers हैं, one has 200 workers, the other has 100 workers, so 200 is a larger firm. But if it's a capital employed, if it's a capital intensive industry, then instead of workers, the size of equipment is more important. Machinery and capital employed is more important. ठीक है ना, तो ये चीज याद रखनी है. So कई दफा इस तरह होता है कि if one business is labor intensive and the other is capital intensive, यानी कि they're different, then the comparison becomes difficult. ठीक है, मैंने कहा ना, question ये आता है कि why is it sometimes difficult to compare the size of two businesses? So the reason is if the two businesses are similar, then comparison is easier. ठीक है ना, one football manufacturer versus the other football manufacturer, comparison is easy. One soft drink producer versus the other soft drink producer, comparison is easy. Pepsi produces 10 million bottles, Coke produces 15 million bottles, that's a bigger firm. But when the businesses are different, then comparison might be difficult. Just say if one is labor intensive, the other is capital intensive, comparison would be difficult. ठीक है, yeah, if the nature of the business is totally different. ठीक है, just like I just said, Coke versus Pepsi is easy, but Coke versus Boeing is difficult. कि Coke, पता नहीं, they produce a few trillion bottles a day, yeah, a year, but Boeing probably produces 4, 5, 6 aircraft a year. the comparison will be difficult. Boeing versus Airbus will be easier. You're getting my point? So when businesses are alike, then comparison is easier. But if the businesses are different, then comparison becomes a little more challenging. Okay, so remember this answer. Okay, whenever you discuss these. So people who joined afterwards, yesterday we went through ethics and CSR and triple bottom line. Right after that, in today's class, we have started discussing a new topic. It is size and growth of businesses, जिसमें हमने अभी indicators of size किए हैं, and we've discussed a simple question from the past papers. अब जरा आगे चलते हैं. अगली heading दे दो. Types of growth. Main heading तो होगी ना, size and growth of businesses. The next heading is types of growth. Types of growth. So growth can be classified into internal growth and external growth. The two major categories of growth, the two major types of growth, internal growth and external growth. The difference is that in internal growth, a firm grows while depending on its own resources. Okay? In internal growth, a firm grows while depending on its own resources. It doesn't join hands with any other firm and it grows in size. That is internal growth. Okay? And in external growth, a firm grows by joining hands with another firm. That's external growth. In internal growth, you grow while depending on your own resources. You don't join hands with anybody else. But in an external growth, a firm grows, a business grows by joining hands with another business, by joining hands with another firm. Okay? That's called external growth. ठीक हो गया? अच्छा. Now external growth, internal तो हो गया ना कि आप अपनी strategies लगाओ and you grow in size. That is simple. कि अभी you were producing 10 shares a month, next month start producing 12 shares a month. वो तो internal growth. But external growth is divided into different categories. External growth के मुख्तलिफ types हैं. कौन सी types हैं? देख लेते हैं. A, the first one, external growth की types करें. The first one could be a friendly merger. These are types of external growth. The first one is a friendly merger. Take the first category, the first type, a friendly merger. External growth. So as the name suggests, in a friendly merger, two or more firms, they combine their resources willingly. Friendly ka word hai na? Willingly. In a friendly merger, two or more firms, they join hands willingly. Okay, they combine their resources willingly. They combine their resources willingly. That's a friendly merger. If National and Panasonic, they join hands willingly, that would be a friendly merger. Okay, two independent firms merged into one. एक तरीका तो ये external growth. Then there could be a hostile takeover. There could be a friendly merger. There could be a hostile takeover also. Hostile, जिसमें there's a bit of hostility, rivalry होती है. So in a hostile takeover, one business forcibly takes over another business. That's a hostile takeover. When one business forcibly takes over another business, that's a hostile takeover. Okay, they start buying their shares and forcibly they buy more shares and there's a hostile takeover. When one business forcibly takes over another business, that's a hostile takeover. But when it is done willingly, that's a friendly merger. Okay, for instance, we keep hearing We keep hearing stuff about banks. When one bank takes over another bank, Faisal Bank taking over ABN AMRO, या RBS Royal Bank of Scotland taking over ABN AMRO, फिर RBS को Faisal Bank ने take over कर. So when you forcibly take over another business organization, buy their shares, and you become the majority shareholder, then that is a hostile takeover. So friendly merger भी external growth है, hostile takeover भी external growth. Then there's another type of external growth, जिस पे बहुत दफा questions आते हैं. That is called a joint venture. ठीक है, 2019 में भी आया था joint venture. Remember the term joint venture, VENTURE, joint venture. Okay, it is also called a strategic alliance. You can call it a joint venture, or you can call it a strategic alliance also. Strategic strategies. Strategic alliance or joint venture, they mean the same. So what is a joint venture? Yeah, what is a strategic alliance? In this case, external growth ki type hai, in a joint venture, the firms join hands, they combine their resources for one particular project only. Okay, in case of a joint venture, the firms join hands, they combine their resources for a particular project only, yeah, for a particular product only. Okay, they combine their resources, joint venture है ना, for one project or one product only, without losing their individual identities. बात समझ आ रही है? जैसे there are two construction companies, for example, X and Y. X and Y, they join hands for one project only. कि भाई X and Y दोनों कहते हैं we will construct a bridge together. We will construct a motorway together. ठीक है? But we will join hands for this bridge only. This bridge will be our joint venture. Otherwise, X will continue to be X, Y will continue to be Y. ठीक है ना? They will not lose their individual identity. So when you do not lose your individual identity, it's not a merger, and you join hands for one project only, we call it a joint venture. ठीक है? इसकी the best example, remember Sony Ericsson. अब Sony and Ericsson, these are two independent companies, but they join hands for one project only, production of phones, Sony Ericsson phones. So for phones, it was a joint venture, they had joined hands. But otherwise, Sony had a range of its own products, and so did Ericsson. So this situation is called a joint venture or a strategic alliance. Okay, very, very useful, because isme you're expanding your business also. You're exchanging technology also, you're expanding your business, there are economies of scale, profit bhi ho raha hai, you're increasing your market share, you're learning from each other, and at the same time, you're retaining your identity also. You're retaining your own brand name also. So this is a very useful arrangement, a joint venture. ठीक है, ये तीन categories of external growth. ठीक है, थोड़ा और आगे चलते हैं. Now ये main topic वही चल रहा है, वही भी चलेगा कुछ ऐसा. Size, yes.
Sir, market penetration किधर categorize होएगी?
देखो, market penetration is just a marketing strategy in which you just lower your price. Because market penetration is characterized by the feature that you just lower your price and you penetrate into the market. Okay? It does not have to involve a merger or an integration or a takeover or a joint venture. Market penetration means maybe it's an existing business and you have just decided to adopt a penetration strategy. आगे चल के we will study product life cycle. You've just decided to adopt a penetration pricing strategy. Market penetration, हमेशा याद रखना, whenever you lower the price, you will increase your market share, you will penetrate into the market, you will attract price conscious customers. And for this, you don't have to join hands with another firm. Okay? You may or may not join hands with another firm, but the main point to remember is you just have to lower the price. That is market penetration. And we will discuss this in detail in section 3. Market penetration ka pura topic and section 3 in marketing We'll discuss this in detail. But for the time being, just remember, any organization, when it lowers its price to attract the price conscious customers, we call that a market penetration strategy. उसको necessarily link करने की जरूरत नहीं है with integration या with growth. ठीक है, वो automatically growth हो जाती है because you're lowering the prices and your target audience increases, the number of customers increases. ठीक है, so for the time being, एक तो step by step, एक तो ये हो गया कि you divide growth between internal and external growth. Internal में you depend on your own resources. External में, you know, another independent organization has to be involved. फिर मैंने कहा it can possibly take 3 forms, ठीक है, which are a friendly merger or a hostile takeover or a strategic alliance, a joint venture. अच्छा, इसको there is, you know, some further explanation required here. वो ये कि you have to, yeah, many of you already are familiar with the word integration. ठीक है? So nowadays, in today's modern business world, whenever you're discussing external growth, the word integration is used more commonly. बल्कि ये समझ लो most commonly. The word integration is used most commonly these days for describing external growth. Integration का word याद रखना, ये आगे चल के we're going to use this repeatedly, especially when we start doing the case studies. उसमें भी बहुत integration का जिक्र आएगा. To integrate basically is to combine. In literal terms, ठीक है, in literal terms, integration is to combine. जिस तरह disintegration होता है ना, to be apart, integration to combine. So in business, usually for describing external growth, you use the word integration. ठीक है? Now this integration can take 3 different shapes. It can take 3 different forms, types of integration. 3 तरह की हो सकती है. ठीक है, depending on the stage of business that you are in. 3 तरह की integration हो सकती है. The first one is called, ठीक है, very commonly used term, vertical integration. There could be 3 types of integration. The first one is vertical integration. Now in vertical integration, the firms are engaged in different stages of the same production process. I repeat, integration can take 3 forms. And in integration and vertical integration, the firms are engaged in different stages of the same production process. Okay, they are engaged in different stages of the same production process. Okay, for instance, when I say different stages of the same production process, remember in our first lecture, we try to differentiate between the primary sector, the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. Basically, they're referring to that. Okay, in vertical integration, the firms are engaged in different stages of the same production process. Example, business में देखो, examples are very important. मैंने कल भी बताया था, it increases the quality of your answer. So for example, in vertical integration, if the owner of cotton fields, for example, cotton fields तुम्हें पता ही है, primary sector, raw material. So when the cotton fields take over a textile mill, that is vertical integration, because these are different stages of the same process. Cotton is the raw material, okay, which is transformed into yarn afterwards, okay, for cloth and clothes and everything. So if cotton fields take over a textile mill, that is vertical integration. Yeah, if a textile mill takes over cotton fields, that is also vertical integration. यानी कि इससे हमें ये पता चला that vertical integration could be forward or backwards. Vertical integration could be forward or backwards. यानी कि when the raw material takes over the factory, that is vertical forward. Or when the factory takes over the raw material, that's vertical backwards. ठीक है ना, depending on the direction. ये ऐसे ही है जैसे आइसक्रीम प्रोडक्शन है. देखो उसमें 3 stages हैं: the dairy farm, raw material, the ice cream plant, and the ice cream parlor. ठीक है, the store through which the ice cream is sold. So when the dairy farmer takes over the ice cream plant, or the other way around, or the ice cream plant takes over the ice cream parlor, or the other way around. We would call this vertical integration, which is very, very common these days. So in vertical integration, when different stages of the same production process are combined into one, जिस तरह अगर rubber plantation है, वो किस में use होता है? In the production of tires. So the rubber plantation, if they take over the tire manufacturer, or the tire manufacturer takes over the rubber plantation, that's vertical integration. एक तरीका तो ये हो गया. Number 2 is horizontal integration. ठीक है? In horizontal integration, similar firms, ठीक है, बिल्कुल basic sense, very, very simple. Similar firms at the same stage of production are combined into one. ठीक है? In horizontal integration, similar firms engaged the same stage of production, they are combined into one. That's called horizontal integration. जिस तरह, if two schools are merged into one, if two banks are merged into one, if two airlines are merged into one, that's horizontal integration. Similar firms. If two restaurants are merged into one, that's horizontal integration. Similar firms, same stage of production. So all these examples that we keep hearing about, some two banks, ठीक है? अभी जिस तरह केस स्टडी आई थी कि एक एयरलाइन है, it takes over another airline, that's horizontal integration. So National Panasonic, horizontal है, ठीक है? Mercedes and McLaren, horizontal है. General Motors and Daewoo, horizontal है, ठीक है? Walls and Polka, horizontal है. So whenever the firms, they are engaged, ठीक है, in similar kind of products and they are at the same stage of production, we call that horizontal integration. और इसका सबसे बड़ा फायदा ये है कि the level of competition goes down.
Sir, would this be a strategic alliance?
देखो, in order to be a strategic alliance, यानी कि a joint venture, the important point is that you do not lose your individual identity. ठीक है? अगर Mercedes and McLaren, they have retained their individual identities and they have joined hands for one project only, then that will be called a joint venture. ठीक है? लेकिन देखो, जिस तरह Walls है, Walls, they took over Polka. ठीक है? It was a separate organization, ice cream manufacturer, Walls was separate. ठीक है? But Walls took over Polka and now Polka is nowhere to be seen. तो फिर ये joint venture नहीं होगा. The condition is to be a joint venture or a strategic alliance, what you're saying. ठीक है? Your individual identity has to be retained. जैसा मैंने कहा Sony Ericsson में, Sony continues to be Sony and Ericsson continues to be Ericsson, but सिर्फ in case of cell phones they've joined hands, then it is a joint venture. ठीक है? So it depends, ठीक है, on what the situation is. Conditions apply. Okay, if you are not retaining your individual identity, फिर तो simple horizontal integration. लेकिन if you are, then it's a joint venture. ठीक है? And I was saying that the biggest advantage associated with the joint venture with horizontal integration is that the level of competition goes down. That is why companies give preference to this. I'll hypothetically make example बताऊं. अगर कल देखो, let's suppose there's an announcement कि, you know, Coke has taken over Pepsi, for instance, hypothetically. So what do you think will be the next step that they'll take? The next step would be they will increase the price. Because when Coke takes over Pepsi, this means there's a reduction in competition. Because horizontal integration is always in case of businesses that are similar, businesses that are competitors. So whenever horizontal integration takes place, the level of competition goes down. And when the level of competition goes down, as we all must have observed, now the business is in a position to increase its prices also. So that is the biggest advantage associated with horizontal integration. अच्छा, तीसरी form integration की है conglomerate. How do we spell a conglomerate? CONGLOMERATE, conglomerate. There's vertical integration, there's horizontal integration, and then there is a conglomerate. 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 Okay, another popular form of business these days, but usually conglomerates are seen in case of businesses that are very strong financially. Usually conglomerates are businesses which are financially very, very strong. And what is a conglomerate? Uska basic feature kya hai? This is a type of external growth. This is a type of integration. Dekho, in a conglomerate, a business takes over an absolutely unrelated business. That is a conglomerate. What is a conglomerate? When a business takes over another unrelated business. Whenever a business takes over another unrelated business, absolutely, totally different business, in a totally different industry, we call that a conglomerate. For instance, if a school takes over a cafe, that would be a conglomerate. If an electronics manufacturer takes over a steel mill or a furniture manufacturer, that would be a conglomerate. Whenever you take over an unrelated business, that's a conglomerate. But like I said, for that, you need tremendous financial resources. I'll just quote a few examples, real life examples, conglomerates ki. Jis tarah, it's an established fact, on a global level, one of the largest conglomerates of the world is Gillette. You can quote this example safely. Gillette, Gillette. Gillette is one of the largest conglomerates in the world. Why? Because the owner of Gillette, he has this obsession that whenever he identifies a large business, a totally different business, in a totally different industry, it becomes his objective to somehow take over that business. This is what he has been doing all his life, and he has been extremely successful. Jaise, Gillette has taken over Parker pens, for instance. Gillette obviously is known for its toiletries, but Gillette has taken over Parker pens, a totally different business, a totally different running business. So Gillette taking over Parker pens or Duracell batteries. Gillette has taken over Duracell batteries, another different business. Gillette has taken over Braun Electronics, the German firm. So Gillette taking over Parker and Duracell and Braun Electronics, that is a typical example of a conglomerate. You take over businesses that are totally unrelated. Okay? That's a conglomerate. But like I said, you need huge financial resources for this. These are multi-billion dollar deals to take over such a huge business. लेकिन यहाँ पे एक technical point है. You must not be confused regarding this. ये याद रखना that if you want to form a conglomerate, you have to take over an unrelated, already established business. ये जरा point समझ लो. जैसे if you have a cement plant and now you start producing, you start establish a textile mill. अब textile और cement totally unrelated है. But this will not be called a conglomerate. If it is an already established textile mill, a running business, and the cement plant takes over that running business, तब ये conglomerate है. I hope you understand this point. It has to be an unrelated business, but it has to be a running business. जैसे अगर कोई company है, कोई bakery है, and they take over a construction business. अगर तो it was an already established construction business, तब तो it's a conglomerate. But if they start off from scratch, they establish their own new construction business, the bakery owners, then it is internal growth. फिर ये conglomerate नहीं है. Conglomerate external growth में होता है. So you have to keep this in mind. If you start a new business and unrelated business from zero, then that's internal growth. But if the other business is unrelated and it was an already established business, a running business, then you will call it a conglomerate. A conglomerate ka the biggest advantage is, आगे चल के हम पढ़ेंगे भी, कि you start enjoying risk-bearing economies of scale. The biggest advantage, the biggest plus point of establishing a conglomerate is that the business starts enjoying risk-bearing economies of scale. Okay, hopefully all of us, many of us have an idea. Risk-bearing economies, किसे कहते हैं? Risk-bearing economies. This is a separate topic also. Risk-bearing economies. This basically means that you have a wide range of products because of which your risk factor is reduced. You have a wide range of products. All your eggs are in different baskets, so to say. If all your eggs are in different baskets, taken in very simple terms, you're enjoying risk-bearing economies of scale. Because Gillette hai, for instance, Gillette is dealing in such a wide variety of items. Okay, if their toiletries fail, they can still rely on their pens, Parker pens. Agar Parker pens nahi chalenge, they can still rely on their Duracell batteries. This is called risk-bearing economies of scale. Okay, you have a wide range of products and the risk factor is distributed. The risk factor is divided. And that is why you must have observed that all large firms, they have a wide range of products. You will never come across a large firm. It is unlikely it's a large firm and it has one product only. It is highly unlikely. All large firms, dekh lo, electronics, dekh lo, Sony, dekh lo, car manufacturers, Honda, anything. They always widen the range of their products as they grow because they want to enjoy risk-bearing economies of scale. ठीक है? ये बात हो गई? Okay. So अभी इसमें हमने growth के मुख्तलिफ types देखी हैं. अच्छा, अब जो next subheading इसमें बनती है, because we have mentioned the term economies of scale here. So let's discuss economies and diseconomies here. There are more or less close to 10 points here. ठीक है? Main heading वही है. इस पे you can expect questions, carrying even 20 marks. The main heading, the main topic that we are discussing, that is size and growth of businesses, जो कि ethics के बाद शुरू किया था. And there are various topics that come under the same umbrella. Okay? And one such topic is size and growth of businesses में economies and diseconomies of scale. Okay? So next subheading लिख लो, economies and diseconomies of scale. ये पूरा will cover this. Size and growth में आता है. उसके बाद फिर वो Peter Drucker's MBO शुरू हो जाता है, management by objectives theory and all that. वो बाद में नया topic आएगा. मैं इसका basic introduction दे दूं before the class ends, because ये online है, so बिल्कुल specific वो करना होता है. I'll just give you the basic introduction here. Economies and diseconomies of scale. देखो, economies of scale, if you have to define the term, understand the term economies of scale, how do we define it? It is the reduction in average costs. It is the reduction in average costs. Economies of scale, it is defined as the reduction in average costs because of the expansion or growth of a business. The reduction in average costs because of the size, because of the expansion or growth of a business. Okay, whenever a business grows, whenever a business expands, the average costs go down. Average cost किसे कहते हैं? Per unit costs. Okay, the reduction in average costs because of the expansion or growth of a business, that's called economies of scale. Okay, before winding this up, because we need a detailed discussion on this, we'll continue with this. Magar just to simplify this, ye samajh lo, economies of scale. Okay, when you purchase 1 kilogram of something, the seller might charge 100 rupees a kg. But when you purchase 100 kilograms, so instead of 100 rupees a kg, he might start charging 90 rupees a kg. So basically, these advantages of bulk buying are technically called economies of scale. Your average cost goes down, your per unit cost goes down. Okay, otherwise, it was 100 rupees a kg, but now because you're buying in bulk, he might charge 90 rupees a kg. So this is, in very simple terms, this is the basic concept behind economies of scale. So economies of scale are further classified into internal and external economies of scale. There are about 4 or 5 internal economies and there are about 5 external economies, which we'll discuss next time. Filhal ye likh lo, economies of scale are further classified into internal and external economies of scale. Okay, internal and external economies of scale. And this point onwards, okay, we'll continue with this and we'll discuss this in our next class. All right. So this is
Okay,
it
sir.
for now. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir.